Hyun Park stood in front of her bedroom mirror, practicing her lines one more time. Her dark fingers gripped the paper tightly as her warm brown eyes scanned the words she already knew by heart. The 12-year-old girl had spent 3 weeks preparing for this moment. Today was her chance to join the ISS Harmony's annual holiday performance. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, smoothing down her school uniform. The silver stripe on her sleeve marked her as a 6th-grade student in the ship's education system. Above her bed, stars streaked past her window as the massive research vessel continued its journey through space. A soft knock on her door made her turn. "Hyun, are you ready for breakfast?" Her father's gentle voice called out. Dr. Ji-woo Park entered the room, already wearing his white lab coat. The quantum physicist's kind eyes crinkled at the corners as he smiled at his daughter. "Still practicing?" "I want it to be perfect, Dad," Hyun said. She tucked a braided lock of hair behind her ear. Her mother had helped her style it specially for today. "You already are perfect," Ji-woo said, putting his arm around her shoulders. "Come on, your mom made your favorite breakfast." In the family's dining area, Dr. Amara Thompson Park was setting out bowls of steaming rice and soup. The xenobiologist had just returned from an early morning shift in the research labs. The scent of kimchi and eggs filled the air, mixing with the artificial morning breeze that circulated through the ship's living quarters. "There's my star," Amara said, kissing Hyun's forehead. "Ready for your big audition?" Hyun nodded, though butterflies danced in her stomach. She sat down at the table, trying to eat despite her nerves. Her mother had always told her that breakfast was the most important meal of the day, especially on a space station where everyone needed to stay healthy and strong. "Director Kim has been running the holiday show for 20 years, Ji-woo said, pouring himself some coffee. "He'll see how talented you are." Hyun hoped her father was right. Do-young Kim was known throughout the ship for his strict adherence to tradition. Some called him old-fashioned, but he had turned the ISS Harmony's annual holiday performance into one of the most anticipated events of the year. After breakfast, Hyun walked with her parents through the ship's wide corridors. Other crew members smiled and waved as they passed. The Park family was well known on the vessel. Her parents' research was helping humanity understand both the smallest particles of existence and the possibility of alien life. The cultural center occupied a large section of Deck 7. Its entrance featured artwork from different Earth cultures, showing how humanity had brought its heritage to the stars. Hyun's footsteps slowed as they approached the main performance hall. "We'll be right here waiting," Amara said, squeezing her daughter's hand. "Just be yourself." Hyun took a deep breath and entered the audition room. Director Kim sat at a table with his assistant, reviewing papers. He looked up as she approached, his expression neutral. "Hyun Park." He checked his list. "You're auditioning for the lead role." "Yes, sir," Hyun said clearly, just as she had practiced. "I've memorized all the lines, and I've been taking singing lessons with Mrs. Yuna." Director Kim's face remained unchanged. "You understand this is a traditional performance. We strive for historical accuracy in our portrayal." Hyun nodded. "I've studied the history. I know all the customs and meanings behind the celebration." "That's commendable," Director Kim said slowly. "But we need someone who fits the traditional look of the role. Someone who can properly represent the historical figure." The words hit Hyun like a physical force. She stood very still, understanding exactly what he meant but not wanting to believe it. "I don't think you would be suitable for this particular role," Director Kim continued. "Perhaps you could help with the backstage crew. Or maybe join the choir where appearance is less crucial." Hyun felt heat rising in her cheeks. She had expected to be judged on her talent, her preparation, her dedication. Instead, she was being judged by the color of her skin. "Thank you for your time," she managed to say, her voice barely a whisper. She turned and walked out of the room, her steps quickening as she neared the door. Her parents stood up as soon as they saw her face. Amara opened her arms, and Hyun ran into them, finally letting her tears fall. "He didn't even let me audition," She sobbed into her mother's shirt. He said I didn't fit the look. Ji-woo's face darkened with anger, but he kept his voice gentle. Did he say those exact words? Hye-yeon nodded, wiping her eyes. He said they needed historical accuracy. But Mom told me that history isn't just one color. That humanity has always been diverse. Your mother is right, Ji-woo said, kneeling beside them. And some people, even here in the future, among the stars, still haven't learned that lesson. Unknown to the Park family, their conversation had other observers. High above the cultural center, hidden by technology far beyond human understanding, two beings of pure energy watched with great interest. The child shows pain, one observer noted, their thoughts translating into subtle patterns of light. Yes, the other agreed, but observe how she processes it, how her family supports her. This may be exactly the test we were waiting for. Back in the corridor, Hye-yeon straightened up, her tears slowly stopping. A new feeling was replacing her sadness, determination. I have an idea, she said suddenly, looking at her parents. If I can't be in their show, maybe I could make my own. Amara and Ji-woo exchanged glances, recognizing the spark in their daughter's eyes. It was the same look they both got when they were about to discover something new in their research. Tell us more, Amara encouraged, as they began walking back to their quarters. As Hye-yeon started explaining her plan, her voice growing stronger with each word, the hidden observers continued their watch. They had seen countless civilizations rise and fall, but there was something different about these humans, something in how they faced adversity and turned it into opportunity. The observers' mission was to evaluate humanity's readiness for contact with the greater galactic community. And on this day, in this moment, a young girl's rejection might just lead to humanity's greatest advancement. But for now, Hye-yeon Park walked between her parents, her mind already racing with ideas. She didn't know it yet, but her next move would do more than just challenge one person's prejudice. It would change the course of human history. In their quarters that evening, Hye-yeon sat at her desk, beginning to write her own story. Outside her window, the endless stream of stars continued to pass by, each one a reminder that the universe was full of possibilities, waiting for those brave enough to reach for them. The next morning, Hye-yeon woke up with a clear plan in her mind. During breakfast, she spread out her tablet on the kitchen table, showing her parents what she had been working on all night. I want to make a show that combines Earth's holiday traditions with science, she explained, pointing to her notes. Something that shows how we're all connected, just like the stars are connected. Amara smiled as she read over her daughter's shoulder. These are some big ideas, sweetheart. How will you put it all together? I need help, Hye-yeon admitted, and I think I know just who to ask. Later that day, Hye-yeon walked to the ship's study center, where she often saw Tae Lee working on engineering projects. The quiet boy was sitting alone, as usual, surrounded by small mechanical parts and tablets showing complex diagrams. Hi, Tae, Hye-yeon said, approaching his table. Can I talk to you for a minute? Tae looked up, surprised. Most kids stayed away from him because they thought he was too serious. Sure, he said, pushing his glasses up his nose. I heard you weren't allowed in the engineering showcase last month because Director Nam said you were too young. Hye-yeon said gently, even though your designs were better than the older students. Tae's shoulders tensed slightly. They said I wouldn't look right on stage. That people wouldn't believe a 10-year-old could build advanced engines. That's exactly why I'm here, Hye-yeon said, sitting down. I want to create a different kind of show. One where age and looks don't matter. Only talent does. As she explained her idea, Tae's eyes grew wider. You want to combine holiday traditions with quantum mechanics and engineering principles. Yes, and music too. That's why we also need Yuna. Yuna Kang was already in the music room when they found her. The 13-year-old girl was playing a hauntingly beautiful piece on her electronic piano, but her face looked sad. When she saw Hye-yeon and Tae, she quickly wiped her eyes. I heard about what happened with Director Kim, Yuna said. He told me the same thing last year, said my wheelchair would distract from the traditional aesthetic of the show. Hye-yun felt anger bubble up inside her again, but she pushed it down. Then you'll understand why we need to do something different. Something better. Yuna listened as Hye-yun and Tae explained the plan. Her fingers moved absently over the piano keys, creating soft notes that seemed to dance in the air. We could use the old cargo bay on deck 12 to practice, Yuna suggested, growing excited. Nobody goes there anymore since they built the new storage area. The three children spent the rest of the afternoon in Cargo Bay 7. The large, empty space echoed with their voices as they shared ideas. Tahi began drawing designs for simple machines that could create light patterns. Yuna worked on combining different musical styles that represented various Earth cultures. What if we use the vibrations from Yuna's music to power Tahi's light machines? Hye-yun suggested. My dad says everything in the universe is connected through vibrations and waves. As they experimented, strange things began to happen. When Yuna played certain combinations of notes, Tahi's machines glowed brighter than they should have. Patterns of light danced on the walls in ways that didn't match their simple equipment. That's not supposed to happen, Tahi said, checking his calculations for the third time. These lights should only be using the small power cells I installed. Unknown to them, the hidden observers were watching with increasing excitement. The children had accidentally stumbled upon something that the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy had spent centuries trying to understand. They're accessing the quantum harmony naturally, one observer noted. Through their art and unity, they're tapping into the universal frequency. And look at their neural patterns, the other observer added. The girl Hye-yun's mixed genetic heritage has created unique pathways in her brain. She's instinctively understanding connections that our scientists struggle to theorize. Back in the cargo bay, more children began joining their group. Word spread quietly through the ship's younger population about the strange and beautiful things happening in the old storage area. Many of them had their own stories about being left out or told they didn't fit in. My parents are from Nigeria, a boy named Oluwason said, but I've lived on this ship my whole life. Director Kim said my accent wasn't right for the speaking parts. They told me my hearing aids would show too much in the costumes, another girl added, her hands moving in sign language as she spoke. Hye-yun welcomed them all. Each new person brought something special to their performance. Some had ideas for costumes made from recycled ship materials. Others knew traditional dances from their families' cultures. A few were good with computers and helped program the light sequences. One afternoon, Dr. Nam-gil Song, the ship's chief engineer, was walking past the cargo bay when he noticed unusual energy readings on his tablet. The patterns made no sense. They looked almost like the quantum fluctuations he studied in the ship's drive core. He peered through the cargo bay's window and saw the children practicing. Light swirled around them in impossible ways as music filled the air. The engineer's scientific mind told him this shouldn't be possible with the basic equipment he could see, but his eyes told him it was happening anyway. Nam-gil decided not to report what he saw. Instead, he quietly adjusted the power readings for that section of the ship so no one else would notice. Something told him these children needed time to develop whatever they had discovered. As their practice sessions continued, Hye-yun noticed that the lights and music seemed to respond to how they all felt. When they worked together in harmony, the lights grew brighter and moved in more complex patterns. When someone felt left out or angry, the patterns would become chaotic. It's like the universe is teaching us something, she told her parents one evening, about how being different isn't bad. It's what makes us stronger together. The hidden observers continued their watch, making detailed notes about humanity's progress. These children, without even knowing it, were proving that humans had the potential to join the greater galactic community. Meanwhile, in his office, Director Kim was dealing with a growing problem. More and more parents were coming to him, asking why their children weren't interested in his traditional show anymore. Some had heard about strange lights and beautiful music coming from the old cargo bay, but when he went to investigate, he only found an empty room. Hei-yun and her friends had learned to post lookouts and move their practice sessions around. They weren't breaking any rules, but they wanted their performance to be a surprise. They planned to hold it on the same night as the traditional show, in the ship's secondary auditorium that was usually used for scientific lectures. As the day of the performance grew closer, something remarkable was happening to the children. They were changing, not physically, but in how they saw themselves and each other. Their differences, which had once made them feel isolated, became the very things that made their show unique and powerful. "We're ready," Hei-yun announced at their final practice. "Everyone knows their parts. The machines are working. The music is perfect." What she didn't say, what none of them could have known, was that they were about to change not just their own lives, but the future of humanity itself. Their simple act of defiance against prejudice had led them to discover something that would open the doors to the stars. The observers, watching from their hidden dimension, prepared to make their final evaluation. Soon, they would know if humanity was truly ready for what was to come. Dr. Nam-gil-song couldn't sleep. The strange energy readings from Cargo Bay 7 kept appearing in his mind. As the ship's chief engineer, he had seen many unusual things in his 20 years of space service, but nothing quite like this. Early that morning, before most of the crew was awake, he went to his private lab. He spread out all his data readings on the large display screen. The patterns were beautiful and impossible. They looked like quantum harmonics, but they were happening at room temperature, without any special equipment. "Computer, run a comparison analysis," he said, speaking clearly to the ship's eye. "Compare these energy patterns with all known quantum phenomena in our database." The computer worked silently for several minutes. Finally, it displayed its results. No match found. Current patterns show organization levels 47% higher than any recorded quantum event. Nam-gil sat back in his chair, running his hands through his gray hair. He needed to talk to someone who understood quantum physics better than he did. He needed Dr. Ji-woo Park. Meanwhile, Hei-yun was having breakfast with her parents when their door chimed. Nam-gil stood in the hallway, looking tired but excited. "Ji-woo, I need your expertise," he said, holding up his tablet. "Something is happening on this ship that breaks all the rules of quantum physics as we know them." Ji-woo invited him in, and Nam-gil spread his data across their breakfast table. Hei-yun tried to look busy with her cereal, but she couldn't help noticing that the strange patterns on Nam-gil's screen looked exactly like the lights during their practice sessions. "These readings came from Cargo Bay 7, Nam-gil explained. "They show quantum harmony happening without any quantum computer or special conditions. It's like someone is conducting the universe itself." Ji-woo studied the patterns carefully. "This shouldn't be possible," he said. "Unless..." He looked at his daughter, who was trying very hard to appear interested only in her breakfast. "Hei-yun," he said gently, "does this have something to do with your special show?" Hei-yun looked up at her father, then at Nam-gil. She knew she could trust them. "The lights dance when we make music," she explained. "And they get brighter when we all work together. We thought it was just Tahi's machines, but..." "Tahi?" Nam-gil asked. "The young engineering prodigy." Hei-yun nodded. "He built light machines that work with Yuna's music, but they're doing more than they should. It's like the music and lights are talking to each other, and to us." Nam-gil and Ji-woo exchanged looks of amazement. "Could you show us?" Nam-gil asked. Later that morning, Hei-yun led them to Cargo Bay 7. Other children were already there, practicing their parts. Yuna sat at her electronic piano, while Tahi adjusted his light machines. "Okay, everyone," Hei-yun called out. "Let's show them what we've discovered." The children took their positions. Yuna began to play, her fingers dancing across the keys. Other children joined in with different instruments, creating a melody that seemed to weave together music from all over Earth. As the music grew, lights began to swirl around the room. They moved in ways that defied physics, creating patterns that looked like stars being born and galaxies spinning. The colors changed with the harmony of the music, becoming brighter when different cultural sounds blended together perfectly. Namgil held up his scanner, his hands shaking slightly. The quantum field is responding to their music, he whispered to Jiwoo. They found a way to conduct quantum particles through artistic expression. This is beyond anything we've ever seen. Unknown to them, the hidden observers were also watching with great excitement. The adults have finally noticed, one observer said. Now we will see if they understand what their children have discovered. The quantum harmony is strongest around the girl Hae-yun, the other observer noted. Her unique neural patterns are acting as a bridge between the quantum field and normal space. Back in the cargo bay, Ji-woo watched his daughter with pride and amazement. Hae-yun stood in the center of the group, her movements guiding both the music and the lights. She seemed to understand instinctively how to blend the different elements together. Hae-yun, Ji-woo called out when they finished. What you're doing here, it's not just art. You've discovered something incredibly important for science. We have. Hae-yun looked surprised. We were just trying to make something beautiful, something that shows how everyone can work together. Namgil stepped forward. That's exactly why this is so important. For years, scientists have tried to control quantum particles through complicated machines, but you children have shown us that harmony and unity might be the key we were missing. As they talked, more of the ship's scientists began arriving. Word had spread quickly about the strange readings, and soon the cargo bay was filled with experts from different fields. They all watched in wonder as the children demonstrated their discovery again and again. Dr. Amara Thompson Park arrived as well, and her xenobiologist's training helped her notice something else. The energy patterns, she said, studying Namgil's readings. They're similar to signals we've detected from deep space, signals we thought might be from advanced alien civilizations. The hidden observers nodded in approval. The humans were beginning to understand. Their children had accidentally discovered the universal language of quantum harmony, the same language that united all advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Hae-yun felt overwhelmed by all the attention. But what does this mean for our show? She asked. We're supposed to perform tomorrow night. The show must go on, Namgil said firmly. But now it's more than just a performance. It's humanity's first step into a larger understanding of the universe. Throughout the rest of the day, scientists worked with the children, helping them understand what they had discovered. They found that each child's unique background and abilities contributed to the quantum harmony in different ways. It was their differences, working together, that made the impossible possible. Tahi's engineering skills had created machines that could tap into the quantum field. Yuna's music provided the patterns that organized the quantum particles, and Hae-yun's special neural patterns, a gift from her mixed heritage, allowed her to conduct it all like a quantum orchestra. Word about the discovery spread throughout the ship. Even Director Kim heard about it, though he didn't understand exactly what was happening. He only knew that something important was taking place, something that made his traditional show seem very small in comparison. That night, as the children went home to rest before their big performance, the hidden observers made their final preparations. Tomorrow would be the day they revealed themselves to humanity. These children, through their response to rejection and prejudice, had proven that humans were ready to join the galactic community. In her bed that night, Hae-yun couldn't sleep. She watched the stars streak past her window, thinking about how a simple wish to be included in a holiday show had led to something so much bigger. She didn't fully understand the science behind what they had discovered, but she understood the message. When people work together, accepting and celebrating their differences, they can achieve things that seem impossible. The next day would change everything, not just for Hae-yun and her friends, but for all of humanity. But for now, she finally drifted off to sleep, dreaming of lights that danced like stars and music that could touch the quantum heart of the universe itself. The day of the performance arrived with a buzz of excitement throughout the ISS Harmony. News of the strange and beautiful things happening in Cargo Bay 7 had spread to every corner of the ship. Even people who had planned to attend Director Kim's traditional show were now curious about the alternative performance. Ha-yeon woke up early that morning, her heart beating fast with excitement and nerves. Her mother helped her put on the special costume they had made together, a simple black dress covered with tiny lights that Tahi had programmed to twinkle like stars. "Remember," Amara said as she braided Ha-yeon's hair, "no matter what happens tonight, we are so proud of you. You've already done something amazing by bringing all these children together." In the ship's secondary auditorium, final preparations were underway. The space normally used for scientific lectures had been transformed. Tahi's light machines were carefully positioned around the room. Yuna sat at her piano, running through sound checks. Other children were helping to set up chairs and checking their instruments. Dr. Namgil had brought some of his scientific equipment to record the quantum effects they expected to see during the performance. He worked with Dr. Jiwoo to place sensors throughout the auditorium. "The quantum field readings are already stronger than yesterday," Namgil said, checking his instruments. "It's as if the children's excitement is affecting the very fabric of space-time." As evening approached, people began arriving at both performance venues. The ship's main hall, where Director Kim's traditional show would take place, was only half full. The secondary auditorium, however, was packed. Scientists, crew members, and families filled every seat. Some people even stood along the walls. Director Kim himself slipped into the back of the auditorium just before the show began. He told himself he was only there to see what had drawn attention away from his beloved traditional performance. But deep inside, he felt curious about what these children had created. The lights dimmed, and Ha-yeon walked onto the stage. She looked out at the audience, took a deep breath, and began to speak. "Welcome to our holiday celebration," she said, her voice clear and strong. "We call our show Harmony of the Stars because it's about how everything in the universe is connected. Just like the stars look different from Earth, but are all made of the same stuff, we humans may look different from each other, but we're all part of the same family." Yuna began to play her piano, and other children joined in with their instruments. The music started softly, like a distant star beginning to shine. Then more instruments joined in, each adding their own cultural sounds to the melody. Traditional Korean drums blended with African rhythms. European classical music mixed with South American folk songs. As the music grew stronger, the lights began to dance. They swirled around the room in impossible patterns, creating images of stars, galaxies, and nebulae. The audience gasped as the lights seemed to respond to the music, changing color and movement with each new harmony. Namgil's sensors were going crazy. The quantum field readings were stronger than anything they had ever recorded, but the audience didn't care about the science. They were lost in the beauty of what they were seeing and hearing. The children moved through their performance with perfect coordination. Each one had a special part to play, and their differences made the show more beautiful. A girl using sign language conducted part of the light show with her graceful hand movements. A boy in a wheelchair created amazing sound effects with his specially designed electronic instrument. In the middle of it all was Ha-yeon, conducting both the music and the lights with movements that seemed to connect directly to the quantum field itself. The lights swirled around her like a galaxy being born, responding to her every gesture. The hidden observers watched with growing excitement. The quantum harmony the children were creating was perfect. It matched the frequencies used by the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Humanity was ready. Director Kim sat in his seat, unable to look away. The show in front of him broke all his rules about tradition and historical accuracy, yet it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he realized how wrong he had been. As the performance reached its peak, something unexpected happened. The quantum field became so strong that it began to affect normal space. The air in the auditorium sparkled with tiny points of light, like stars being born right in front of the audience. Scientists in the audience checked their instruments in amazement. The children had done something that should have been impossible. They had created a stable quantum field effect in normal space, something that usually required massive machines and extreme conditions. But the children didn't care about the science. They were lost in the joy of their performance, in the beauty of creating something together. Their music told stories of Earth's holidays, of family traditions, of the hope that had carried humanity to the stars. The lights danced faster, the music grew stronger, and then something truly extraordinary happened. The hidden observers, moved by the perfect harmony they were witnessing, decided the time had come. They began to make themselves visible. At first, people thought it was just part of the show. Points of pure light appeared near the ceiling, swirling and dancing with the patterns the children were creating. But these new lights were different. They moved with their own intelligence, forming shapes that no human technology could create. The children noticed the new lights, and instead of being scared, they adjusted their performance to include them. Yun especially seemed to understand instinctively how to work with these strange new patterns. She conducted both the human-made lights and the mysterious new ones in a dance that became more and more beautiful. The audience sat in stunned silence, understanding that they were witnessing something historic. This was more than just a holiday show. This was humanity's first contact with something beyond their understanding. Director Kim stood up from his seat, his hands shaking. All his ideas about tradition and fitting the look seemed small and foolish now. These children, whom he had rejected and dismissed, were creating something that would be remembered forever in human history. As the performance reached its final moments, the music swelled to a crescendo. All the lights, both human-made and alien, swirled together in a spectacular display. The quantum field hummed with perfect harmony, connecting everyone in the room in a way that transcended physical differences. Yun raised her arms for the final gesture, and every light in the room followed her movement. For a moment, the entire auditorium was filled with pure white light. Then, slowly, the light faded, leaving only the mysterious glowing forms near the ceiling. The audience sat in silence for a moment, too amazed to react. Then, as one, they rose to their feet. The applause was deafening, echoing through the entire ship. People were crying, hugging each other, pointing at the strange lights that still danced above them. The children all joined hands and bowed together, their faces glowing with joy and pride. They had created something beautiful, something that celebrated their differences instead of hiding them. And in doing so, they had changed the course of human history forever. The hidden observers, now partially visible to human eyes, prepared themselves for the next phase of their plan. These children had proven that humanity was ready to join the galactic community. Their response to prejudice and rejection had led them to discover the universal language of quantum harmony. Yun stood in the center of the stage, holding hands with her friends, her heart full of happiness. She didn't yet understand that her simple desire to be included in a holiday show had opened the door to humanity's greatest adventure. But she knew, deep in her heart, that something wonderful had begun.